sweetheart. Everybody, this is Anthony here, SpecialtyMotorCars.net. I got a how-to video for you this week on the Lincoln Town Car cowl water leak. It's a common problem with these town cars. It happens to every town car from 1998 all the way up until the end of 2011 when they stopped making these cars. And when I say it happens to every one of them, it happens to every one of them. So if it hasn't happened to yours yet, or if you don't know if the gasket that causes it has been replaced or resealed, you're definitely going to want to take a look at it before it happens. In this case, this 2005 is what I'm going to be working on. I know it's never been done on this car, and where it was garaged and really hasn't been exposed to rain or any kind of weather, it's never leaked into this car. So the issue that starts on these cars is right inside this air induction cowl, right under the passenger side windshield wiper. And what happens is water seeps behind here, and there's a gasket that surrounds the air inlet. And over time, it's like a foam gasket that breaks down and kind of almost falls into the air inlet. I'm going to take all this off. Very easy. You need there's two screws up on the top here, one up here, and one right in here. I'll show you how to do that. This rubber gasket just lifts away, and then I believe it's a 10mm socket inside there to take the bolts off. But what happens is essentially the water leaks in, and people always ask me, well, Anthony, the water pools in the back seat of my car. So it can't be up front. It's got to be something in the back. Now, this car has a sunroof, and it's common for sunroof drains to clog. In this case, the cars live such a sheltered life that the drains aren't clogged. This car doesn't leak, but as a preventative for my customer, I don't want it to leak, and I want to seal it now before it does go bad and he has an issue down the road. So when I see people post on the forums and the pages, they say, oh, the back seat of my town car on the passenger side, the footwell, essentially fills up with water. You see rusty tracks, but the water sits in. The water travels and runs all the way to the back and then pools in the back. So I'm going to get this car repaired here. This is what I use. This is the, you can buy this at any auto parts store. It's an RTV black gasket maker by Permatex, or any brand really. But we're going to take all this cowling off, seal it up. That way I know when this car goes down the road, it's going to be good as new. So the first thing you're going to need is a Phillips head screwdriver. And what you're going to do is take these two screws. There's one, like I said, up here, and there's one here. They're actually like a plastic screw. It's a very long plastic screw, and you're going to take those off. And at the same time, you can also peel this gasket. It just sits right in the plastic channel. Take it about halfway off here, and we're going to get in here and just gently unscrew these plastic screws. So you can see here, these are the screws that I took out. They're plastic screws that hold that cowling piece in. Now, bring the camera in here, Papa Bear. I want to show you one thing that's also something else you want to check. You see this little flap here? What happens is debris gets inside this vent, and then the water is supposed to drain out of this flap. And over time, you get leaves and twigs, not much in there, but I've seen some of these cars where that's just jammed full of stuff. So you want to make sure you clean that out. That isn't a promoter, but that definitely doesn't help the situation that you're dealing with here. So then you just lift this cowling off, and be careful because the ear, you got to kind of slope it underneath the hood. But you can see in the back here, these are the two screw holes, and then these just sit right inside these little slots right here. So I'm going to pull that out of the way. And if you come back over here, it also fills up with leaves and debris and stuff in here. We'll clean all that out with a vacuum. But essentially, this oval-shaped circle is where the water leaks in. Water comes down behind the cowling, in and back, and then into that box, then down into the car. So we're going to take these screws off here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then these two over here hold it down as well.
And those two are going to get put to the side. Take this leaf out. Now these ones, like I said in here, are your 8mm. I'll take those out as well.
So I got these 5 out here. Now, in the event that you accidentally drop a nut down into that screen, it won't fall into the car. You don't have to worry. These are almost like a kind of like a speed bolt or something. They got a very coarse thread on them, and we'll put those off to the side. And then this guy is essentially just going to lift right out. This lifts up, just goes right under that half. You can slide it right out there. And I'm going to flip this over and explain. So this is down on the cowling here. This is that little flap that I mentioned. This one's all pretty clean, but you can see a few little leaves just starting to collect in there. But this is where the water runoff is supposed to be when it comes out of the front. What happens is usually the water comes down into the back here, and this is the gasket that is in question. Now, it's a foam gasket. It's got like a memory foam to it, but you can see there's a little chunk missing here, probably where they seamed it in, I guess you could say. But it's stuck on there. Usually when I see these, the glue starts giving away, and well, this is torn. I just tore it, but the glue starts giving away, and it starts just kind of falling in. I've seen chunks of this missing. I've seen the whole thing missing. It's just sitting right inside this little tray here. Now, we're going to vacuum all that out, get that clean, but essentially your water leakage is right here. So we're going to clean all this old gasket off. We're going to get as much of it off as we can. Maybe take a little razor blade or a little lacquer thinner to try to get some of the adhesive down. But essentially we want to get all that foam off. And if you kind of scrape at it, you can see here that the adhesive starts coming off as well. Now that's usually what breaks down and creates this to fall in. So we're going to get that all cleaned up right now. I'm going to clean out all the leaves and debris just inside that grill right there. So I'm going to just clean this surface here. I use, like a glass cleaner or something like that, just to make sure you get a nice clean contact where the new gasket material is going to go. Doesn't have to be perfect, but a cleaner surface is going to stick better. So this is where it gets messy. I definitely recommend using rubber gloves, using this stuff. This stuff is like, it doesn't matter how careful you are, you always get it all over yourself somehow, and it makes a mess. So what I do is I seal both sides. You're going to seal this ring here. This is where the foam, we cleaned all the foam off the plastic. We even got the adhesive off. So I'm going to do a nice thick bead around this here. And then I'm going to match that same thick bead on this here so that you have both beads come together. You'd rather have more than not enough, because if you don't put enough on there, or there's a little gap somewhere, if you just put it on one side or the other, then you're right back to square one. Make sure you don't put your arm in that. And then we're going to run a bead around this here. And you can actually see the imprint of where the original. Okay, so now I have both surfaces with a thick layer. If you want to come in here, you can see the thick layer or bead I ran around the edge of this one here. Again, I want to be safe than sorry. And then a nice bead around here, so it's ready to go. Now the next key part is to slide this back in there without disrupting or moving it many times. You want to get it kind of in place, set it down, and set that bead. So we're going to flip this over and be very careful when you go to grab this or rub it against your fender. This stuff, like I said, gets everywhere. So I'm going to lift it up on this side. This is where I've done this so many times, it still gets tricky. This is going to sit underneath. This is kind of the tough part, is getting it back up under here without setting the other side down. But thankfully there's enough give. You line those bolts up. Coming in here, coming in nice and strong. Okay, looking good, looking good. This has to come over just a little I think. What's going on here? I'm gonna get ready to set this down. Make sure everything's lined up there. This is lined up how it's supposed to be. I'm gonna line these bolt holes up. We're right on top. You can see we're starting to make some contact in there. We're gonna press this down and let it ooze. So we're right in the spot. Like I said, you want to line these holes up kind of really before you press it down, because once you're down, you're down. Now you're gonna make sure these bolt holes are through. That's basically how you line it up. And like I said before, it kind of just sits underneath this part of the cowling. So let me get those screws. Leave your gloves on, because these two back ones, you're gonna reach in the back here and you wanna miss it, but sometimes you end up getting your hand in that oozing RTV. And this is what I mean and why you wanna wear gloves, because just reaching in there, I caught it on my hand. Now it's all over the screwdriver head. So we're gonna carefully take that off, and I'll deal with cleaning that up later. So those ones are all installed. Now we're gonna take these two 11 millimeters, and we're gonna put those back over the top here. Now these ones kind of sit down right back in there, and these have little rubber gaskets on them. So one of the things that I usually do with these is put a little bit of sealant. I applied a small bead just on the top of the nuts there, and we're gonna sit these ones back down here. I should have gloves on, but I'm taking a walk on the wild side. It's like anti-seize. You get that stuff on your hand, any mechanic will know, and once it's on your hand, it's everywhere. Crank those two down. Those are nice and seated. And that one is all set as well. So come on over here. You can take a look. You can see inside the jam there. You can see inside there. You got a nice bead. It goes all the way around. It's oozing out a little bit, but again, you rather have too much than not enough. Take the cowling. Cowling comes back. Tuck it. Kind of reach your hand around the back here, underneath the window, or in front of the window, underneath the hood. And these little legs kind of just sit right inside these little valleys right here. That sits there nicely. This rubber gasket goes right back up all the way around. And we're going to take these two plastic Phillips head screws. One. And you want to kind of line them up and push them in. You don't actually have to screw these screws in. They just kind of push right back in. But you want to make sure you line them up. You kind of feel for them a little bit to make sure they are going through. There you go. And she's resealed. So now that should be the end of it. You should never have another issue with that, because that RTV is going to stay there pretty much forever. Now, one of the things that a lot of people try to do after they do something like this is change like an air filter, internal cabin air filter. These town cars don't have cabin air filters. So it's really good to make sure you clean all that debris out from under there, so you know that nothing's getting inside the air box of the car. These cars don't have cabin filters. I don't know why, to be honest with you, but that's just how they were designed. So all this is all set. You want to let that cure for, I don't know, a day or so before you take it through a car wash or put it out in the rain. But that essentially is your repair for 98 to 2011 Lincoln Town Car. That's the cowls reseal in there. If you can get it in time, you just start to notice a little bit of moisture back there. You're pretty safe to just dry it out, let the heat run in the car. But if it fills up with water, you're definitely going to want to lift that carpet up and clean underneath your carpeting, because the water's just going to stay inside your floor pan. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. We're going to bring you more how-to videos on these town cars, the Cadillac Broughams. Got a couple cool ones coming out for you. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.